Hello everyone and welcome to This Nintendo Life. My name is NBZ. This is a podcast about the video games and Nintendo of the world, and I'm as always joined by my co-host, but this time in the flesh. It's Bally. Hello Bally, how are you doing today?
You know what they say, NBZ?
What do they say?
Friends are like angels.
Okay.
You don't always see them, but they're always there.
Ah, I love
And
that.
this time, you're here.
Exactly. Absolutely. Where did you learn that phrase from? I've never heard that before.
Fridge magnet, probably.
A fridge magnet?
Can't remember.
Let's see. Fridge magnets. I remember having like some game magnets from O&M back in the day. Like some Mario, like coins and stuff we stuck on the fridge.
They absolutely covered my fridge.
Yeah.
And then we got a new fridge and my mum got rid of all of them.
Oh, what a shame. Because like you could reenact like Mario levels and stuff. It was a fun time. Anyway, fridge magnets. That's our what we've been playing this week. Fridge magnets. That's what we're doing downstairs, just like hanging out, playing some Mario. Actually, we were hanging out playing some Mario.
Were we playing some Mario?
We might touch on that in what we've been playing a little tiny bit. But for now, Bally, we are here to talk about video games and Nintendo. What's the show looking like today?
So we have what we've been playing, we've got some emails lined up, and then for our final segment this week, we are going to talk about one rumour in particular, but in general, some NX rumours.
Yeah.
And, you know, the internet went into absolute meltdown, and we want to tell you our stories about it.
Yeah, talk about how this is a rough time to be a Nintendo fan online.
Oh boy.
And how people go to crazy lengths to falsify rumours. So, in any case, let's kick things off. Stuff we've been playing last couple of weeks. I've been so busy, Bally. I've hardly played anything, but we'll get to that. You are on holiday, however. That's why
I am, and it has been crazy. I've been playing an absolute ton.
You have?
I've been playing Xenoblade.
Yes.
I'm going to mention that in a second. I've been playing Pokemon Red.
Yeah.
I'm going to save that till next time, I think, because I've not finished it. But
Right.
I have completed Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins.
I believe like our number 13 or 12 game in our top 50 games of all time. It was the highest 2D Mario on our ranking.
Yeah. Was it higher than Mario Maker?
It was. I think at that time, Mario Maker hadn't quite gotten like its deepest claws into us.
Yeah.
I think Mario Maker ranked it around like the 20 mark, but
So we both actually experienced this game right back in the day.
Yeah.
I played this game. I was given this game by a family member.
Yeah.
A sort of distant family member a long time ago when I was about 11. And I seem to only remember getting about 4 coins out of the 6 or so. I didn't
so
get
like
too
beating
far.
those 4 areas.
Yeah, beating 4 areas, 4 bosses, and just finding the game really difficult at the time. And the funny thing is that going back to it, this game is so easy.
It is, isn't it?
It's so easy in a good way. It's incredibly short. I think it took me like less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
But other than the final level, spoilers, which is like a really long level with Wario at the end.
Right.
And Wario has like 3 phases and
Yes.
there are no checkpoints.
Nope.
And I'll come clean. I completely save stated quite a bit on that final level because it is long and hard and that would have taken me absolutely ages. But it's a really, really easy game other than that level.
Yeah.
And I just think it doesn't... It's like... What's cool about it is that all the assets in it feel really unique.
Yeah, they're very like different from your standard console Mario games. I remember, so this is a game that I played when my cousins were over because back in the day they had a classic Game Boy, like the big chunky thick one, which you had as well,
Yes.
right? And one of the games they owned was 6 golden coins, and I remember because I didn't have a Game Boy of my own at that time that I would play this when they were over or when I was in London, and like there are enemies that like stick out in my mind, like on I can't remember, it's like one of the more haunted levels when you're going through a forest maybe, and they're the strawberry looking things which have like knives through them.
Yeah.
I don't know if those enemies are actually something different, but I always remember that image of the strawberry
They look like
waddling along with a knife like stuck through it, isn't it?
They sort of... Just all the enemies in this game look completely unique, and it's just like at last minute they just stuck Mario in.
Yeah.
Like it feels like one of those games.
It's like a Super Mario Bros. 2 situation,
Yes,
almost,
it
isn't it?
really does.
Yeah.
And To be honest, I don't think the game handles perfectly.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know whether it's the emulation I'm playing through the Virtual Console on my new 3DS or whether that's how the game was originally. I would bank on it being how the game was originally. But it's not the slickest feeling 2D Mario. But it doesn't matter because in terms of platforming sort of prowess and the skill you needed to platform through the levels, it's not hard, so it doesn't ever bother you. And
right, it's never like, I don't recall any super precise jumps ever being a necessary thing that you had to worry about. It seemed like it may not be perfect control wise, but the levels were designed to accommodate for that, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's very few sort of pits and, like you said, individual blocks to jump on, and the whole world doesn't feel very block based.
No.
It feels like it's really been created, and I think this is probably my favorite 2D Mario.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mess around with what I absolutely hate, which is like secret exits and all this. It feels fresh, and it doesn't like ever overstay its welcome. It's just a short burst. It's almost like Gunman Clive. It's short, it's sweet, it's solid. But you've done it, you've had it, but it's really, really just a neat package. And I like Mario World. I like New Super Mario Bros. I love those games, but they go on a long time. And some of the later levels are really hard, and you're just like waning a bit by the end. Yeah. So I don't know.
This game has so many great memories for me, and I think it's one of those games that defines nostalgia in the sense that as soon as that music hits,
it hits you like a ton of bricks.
Holy shit! I'm right back into like sitting in London in my cousin's house, like on this Game Boy. And for me, like that's something that it's hard to like. It's really hard to divorce yourself from that, right? Yeah. Because the game's not perfect. Like it's really fun, but for me, those elements of the time and place kind of trump it, and it's really difficult. I think this is why at some point we need to do like a nostalgia
top 10,
as opposed to like our kind of current like best games. Although, like, even in this day and place, that's why it's so high on the list. Because I think I would still play it today.
It's one of those games that I think very few games do, where it would come high on both lists. Yeah. Where it is a solid game, even if there are some ever so slight platforming issues. Yeah. They, like we've already said, you don't feel them as much. And it's solid, and like you said, the music absolutely hits you.
It's so good.
So hard.
I love it.
But I mean, for the time and space where I was, where, like I said, I'm playing really long game like Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I wanted just something short and snappy to just play on my 3DS while I'm at home and like maybe watching the TV and the family are around or something. It was just perfect for that situation. And I thought, just got to do it. So completed it. Like I said, it took me a couple of hours, but absolutely loved it. This game is like £3.69, I want to say.
And it's a Game Boy title, right? So
it's a Game Boy title. I thought the emulation was great in general.
And you just realised, as I told you, that you can now switch the view so that you have like the kind of green tint of the original Game Boy, just like our logo, in fact.
Just like our logo.
So you can have that as a visual option on the Game Boy Virtual Console. It's hard to access because they don't really tell you how to do it. Have to hold down like the shoulder buttons and then press. It's weird. It's weird. But I'm glad they give you that option, right? It's like there's something about Nintendo's Virtual Console which, despite all the issues with releases and everything, there's a care to the emulation. It's really like well done.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, it's got save states unlike some other games, but it was such a great experience, and I'd highly recommend it.
Remind me quickly, is that final level with Wario, is there the moon or the space level after that, or is that before?
No, so that's before. Right. And when I played the game back in the day, I attempted that moon level. I don't think I ever beat that boss. It is one of the harder bosses, I'll give them that. But yeah, that's one of the 6 golden coins, and then Wario is once you've got
because I recall that was the point where it got quite hard, was the moon
But that's
level.
the thing, is you can do those 6 golden coins in any order you like.
Yeah, great. Like, it's open, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think after you beat the first stage, right, and then it kind of lets you kind of walk around the the overworld.
stage, and then it's the whole overworld. And the overworld looks nice.
My overwhelming memory is like always like not getting very far, but going to the gate where Wario is and just seeing the gate and being like, how do I get through this gate? Like as a kid, I just had no idea. I was like, I didn't understand.
See, I don't even remember the castle or anything. I just remember all the bosses, and I had no idea at the time that Wario was in the game. I didn't even know who Wario was, to be honest.
I mean, this was his first appearance
in
a Mario game.
Appearance. This is 1992, we should add.
And then he went on to take over this series. He became Mario Land 3 is Wario Land, and then it goes on from there. So.
And it really did take on that series because Wario Land is so distinctive for having, like we already said, the distinctive enemies and things. Like it doesn't feel like Mario.
It's very different.
And this game is just like that. It doesn't feel like another Mario.
Yeah. It's got a very chunky look to it as well. I think that's also like kind of a progenitor to Wario. He's being very chunky, and the sprites in the Game Boy game being that.
Yeah. So high praise for this game. You played it quite recently. Well,
like a couple of years
ago. I hadn't touched it really since a long time ago, but I do have the original cartridge still. Unfortunately, the battery has died, so I can't ever save. But that's fine. Yeah, I've got my emulation. I thought it was great. Highly recommend.
All right.
I've also been playing a ton of Pokemon Red, but like I said, I think I'm going to wrrap that game up, and I can do a big roundup of that game next week. But here's a spoiler: I am enjoying it a lot.
Good.
I've been mentioning this game constantly over the last few
we've
episodes.
been like, Bally's going to play Xenoblade. I'm
going to play this game.
He's going to do it, and
I
then...
actually played this game.
Oh my goodness.
Now, when I say played, I'm nowhere near the end, so don't get your hopes up. But I'm about 30 hours in. Finally got my first scale.
Yeah.
But just thought I'd add a few more thoughts on where I'm going. So I'd not really seen much of the second and third continents, Oblivia and Noctilum. I think Noctilum is like... Because when you first see Noctilum, it's a very dense, jungly area. It's quite intense. There's loads of high-level enemies.
It feels confined.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I believe it's for chapters... 6. Is that 6? Or maybe it's 5. There's a chapter 5 or 6 where you're requested to explore... 6, I think. You're requested to explore 20% of Noctilum before you're able to start the chapter.
Right, yeah.
Which I was just like, 20%. And when I saw 20%, I was like, that's going to take ages. But that is some of the most enjoyable experience of this game, is the exploration. We've already said that. But what I love about Noctilum is just... it opens up after that initial jungle area, and it is just beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, it actually is stunning, and like a lot of breathtaking parts, and the music's great. And
you know what it reminds me is when you get to Satoral Marsh in the original Xenoblade, and it's all kind of like, well, it depends when you get there. If you get there during the day, it's all like grubby and like grey and bad, and then you're walking through it, and eventually night comes through, and all these like ethereal things happen, and there's like these colors in the air, and Noctilum feels like that, but constantly. Like there's always all these plant colors and things and brightness going off.
I think it just oozes like Avatar. That
it does.
Specific area, it's just so blue, and the light and the darkness, it's just works so well. So I just thoroughly enjoyed like exploring the 20%.
I think also like going back to those areas in your scale is very valuable, because now you have like the higher jump. You can kind of clamber your way, platform your way up different areas, and even in that open area in Noctilum, it's still a lot of verticality to it. Like there are branches and trees that you can like wind all the way up. You should definitely go back there and kind of like explore a bit more vertically, because once you have the flight module, it feels a little bit like pointless, less relevant, because you can get anywhere whenever you want. I think like it's good to keep going back to these areas every time you get that upgrade.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I've not used the Skell at all. I basically got it and switched off. And I got it, had a little explore. I've not got any arts or weapons yet or anything for the Skell, but I need to go back and do that. A couple of negatives. So the mission to get the Skell really irritated me, because it's all this stuff where you have to take on these weapons from the Manon to like promote them, and then because you're taking on these dual knives, the class I was using wasn't using dual knives, so I have to swap class, and then I have to defeat enemies as a class I'm not used to, so I'm low level. I've got like 2 crappy arts, and I just had to grind my way through enemies just to, and it was annoying. And I know like there are 8 points to getting the scale, and you had already done like 6 of them. You mentioned naturally. So I'd done maybe like 1 or 2 of them. So it did take me like time, and I felt so close to the scale. And you had said like, "Bally, just beat chapter 6, and then you're at the scale." I was like, "Yeah, great." No, I'm not at all. Not at all. I've got this other like license thing to do.
Getting the license.
And like most chapters or any missions, they have like 2 or 3, maybe 4 points, 8 points before the scale. Like, why? And they're like collecting and defeating specific enemies, like most other missions. But it just felt a bit much right at that moment, and it really sort of irked me.
It does feel like they're just dangling it in front of you, and every time you take a step, they move it away. Like it's
so painful. And so that was like a couple of hours that I was quite frustrated.
Yeah, wow.
With the game, the Tatsu banter, like it's. So initially it was hilarious, but now it's just funny to like laugh at how often it's used. And he's like got this, it's like a specific theme tune. I don't know if it's Lin speaking to Tatsu's theme or Tatsu's theme in general, but it's like, you'll know the music. I'm not going to sing it.
Do they play it when they're about to do the cooking bit before missions?
They play it before they do the cooking bit, but they play it like if he's doing something dumb out in the world as well. And it's just like... So there's that, but then it's just every single moment. If you don't know, it's like the joke is that Tatsu is a potato, and Lin is like going to put him in whatever stew or pie or cake or anything that she's trying to make, and you have to like select what you're going to make before each mission for like some food. It's just like a silly little Japanese thing. It just feels really random.
It does.
It's weird, and it kind of gets a bit wearing, but it's not just... Tatsu's just an idiot is the problem. And
I mean, so is Ricky. Ricky was also
great. It's great
terrible.
fun having him as an idiot doing his own little idiot thing. So that's great.
Yeah.
It's not okay when he's like doing stupid stuff that is impacting the story massively.
Okay.
And what I mean by this is chapter 6. This is spoilers, but I'm sure people don't mind if you've played. Chapter 6, there are these enemies called, what are they called? They're called like the Taken or the Risen. It's not the Risen, that's from Fire Emblem.
Do you mean like the beasts?
So they're basically, you know what I mean. They're beasts that don't sense human or life. They can only, they can sense life. They can't sense machines. Now, this is a really big spoiler, which I'm about to say. So this is a big warning.
Yeah, do skip ahead.
Chapter 5 spoiler coming here. Warning. Okay, you ready? Here we go.
Okay.
Right. So all the people in the game that you're aware of are actually machines, and their real bodies are in the life hold.
Right.
And so this chapter happens straight after that, and the point is that these enemies can't sense robots. They can only sense life forms. So they can sense the ganglion, they can sense Tatsu.
Right.
So Tatsu doesn't come with you for this chapter.
Exactly.
And then you're like walking past all of them, and they're like, they are beatable, and you do actually have to fight them obviously eventually.
Yeah.
But you walk past them all, then there's this awesome cutscene, and then Tatsu just says like, "I'm here. What's happening?" and then all of a sudden, all the beasts just look at Tatsu and like, "Tatsu, why did you come?" And then it's just, it's a cool plot point, and like the second that they don't sense life, that someone with life is going to set them off. That's just like a ticking time bomb. But it was lame and silly. But that's the thing with this game, is anything that's niggling, all you'd have to do is take a step back and go exploring in Primordia, Noctilum, or Oblivia. Those are the 3 continents I'm at. I know there's 2 more later on, but if anything's frustrating you in this game, you just have to take a step back and go for an explore, because it is categorically the best part of this game. That world is incredible, and it really does make up for the parts that are a bit padding or a bit niggling or just plain dumb like Tatsu. So the game, it's a really unusual game, but I am enjoying it, and I'm obviously going to talk about the game a ton more in the future. But yeah, absolutely loving Noctilum. Noctilum is just like my gaming what's the word I'm looking for? Utopia.
Utopia.
It's just beautiful. It's just so nice.
As Nintendo Capri Sun would say, I would sleep there.
I would sleep there. I would definitely sleep there. I did a Miiverse post saying I'd sleep in somewhere in Noctilum. So, yeah, I've got loads more to say on this game. I will try and plow my way through a bit more now that I have my scale and hopefully get a few more chapters done. But like I said, about 30 hours in. You think I'm about a third of the way there.
Maybe a bit more than that.
Between third and halfway, I'd say. So
it depends. It really depends on how much side questing and stuff you like. For example, that whole 20%, like, here's this mission, you need to do 20% of Noctilum. I'd explored about 25 to 30 before I even got there.
And I like that the game forces you to do that.
I think it's perfect. It's really smart that they make that a cutoff because it gives you an opportunity. If some people without that prompt probably wouldn't. A lot of people like mainline games, you know, and just want to go for the story beats. But this game definitely forces you to do side stuff. It makes you go out of your way.
So,
and it's to its benefit.
I'll admit I'm mainlining more or less where I can, but I don't mind that when the game, like we've said, makes you explore so much. Yeah. So I'm just sort of muddling along, I guess. But
all right.
Yeah, enjoying it. It's good. I'll get back to Brussels. I'll plow on with this game. It's good fun. What have you been delving deep into, MBZ?
Well, I've been delving deep into watching you die in frustration. We just
of course.
You just played my most recent Mario Maker level, which took how long?
An hour 45.
Yeah, 1 hour.
An hour and a half.
Yeah. So that was a fun thing that we just did, which I don't know. I like going back to Mario Maker. This is a level that I've been working on for like 2 or 3 months, like not consistently, but on and off.
Yeah.
And I know that you want some revenge now because
I do, and I want to try and copy that model of playing it. Is just to stick it in every now and then, give it a go, work on a level, and then in a little while time I can say, "Hey, we did. Here
we go, challenge time.
Have some fun."
Yeah, and that I'm going to edit down that 1 hour 47 minutes or 45 or whatever to as short as I can and like put up as a video. So we'll link that on our Twitter and stuff. We'll have that up there, so you can go check that out when that goes up eventually. But in terms of other stuff, I hardly anything. I have continued to just be so deep in Stardew Valley. It's a disease.
Oh, you're making me want to play a farming sim so bad.
Oh, it's a disease. So I just got a barn yesterday. So I've got preparation. I'm making preparations at the moment. I'm in winter of the first year. And I'm currently 40 hours in. So I'm basically at the end of the first year, and that's 40 hours. So this game is supposedly like the main cycle of it is supposed to be 3 years. So that's like well over 100, like 120. And so I think that I'm going to be playing this for quite a bit of time to come.
What happens after 3 years?
I think you go and talk to your grandfather, because the way it works is it opens and you're in like this downtrodden job. You're like working for a corporation, and your grandfather, before he passes away, like gives you this letter, and he's like, when the world has like gotten down to you and like you feel beaten and overtrodden, open this letter and read it. And then you do that when you're in your job, and it's like, oh, your grandfather had this farm, go live in the country and be a farmer, basically. And so you have to go and visit, I think, the spirit of your grandfather. It might be at the beginning of the 3rd year, so maybe it's only a 2-year thing for kind of this main cycle. But of course it's open-ended, like Harvest Moon. You can go forever and ever and just keep farming. But yeah, that'll probably take me a good while to get there. I don't know. I'm not necessarily finding it like it's wearing thin on me at all. Still, I'm still doing the same stuff. Like
I'm listening to a podcast with this game, or
like I have like videos on in the background, or I have a podcast on. It's just so relaxing. There's something to be said about a gaming experience that there's no conflict, really. I mean, there's combat in this game, right? But it's such a small aspect. It's like one aspect of it. And the main thrust of it is like, hey, talk to people in town, figure out, like, make sure you're aware of the calendar to know what day people's birthdays are on. Something I just figured out, which is really cool. If you give someone, like, an item... So the items are on a scale of, like, love this item, like this item, neutral, like, dislike and hate. And if you give someone, like, the top tier of item that they like on their birthday, it increases their hearts by 3 instead of just, like, giving them a tiny little boost. So you always have to plan, like, if I want to get this person to like me more, faster, then I need to prioritize. Like, I need to look up what their favorite thing is, make sure that I have that available for that day, make sure I find them in the town because all their schedules are different, so they're always moving around different places, and give them that thing on the day. And so then, someone who I'm trying, there's this girl Leia who I want to like give lots of stuff to, and I was at 3 hearts with her. Gave her the present, goes up to 6, and I think it's when you get to 10 that you can like get married to them or whatever. But
is there a website available yet with all this information?
There's an enormous wiki online that has all of it. Like,
so that is just like when I was about 13, 14 when me and a friend group at school just obsessed about Friends of Mineral Town, and there was this one really well put together website. And we just lived on, basically, and it's got the list of who likes what, when their birthday is, and all this. So it's so satisfying.
Yeah.
But
I think the thing that really gets me with this game, and I think the reason I'm going to play it much longer than I would a Harvest Moon game, is that customization of your farm. Because you can literally place anything down anywhere in this huge plot of land, and that allows you to kind of make it your own in the way that a Harvest Moon game never gives you that level, unfortunately.
Would you put money on this coming to Wii U or 3DS?
I think it's going to come to consoles. I don't know if Wii U is necessarily the shout. It could be an NX game, possibly.
Oh, God.
It could be. Because if you think about it, like, all the stuff we're hearing about production of Wii U, like, not continuing, and everyone thinks NX is coming out in this year, it would be sensible for the developer to wait, I think. Like, he'll probably work on Xbox and PlayStation versions now, and then...
In the same way that the Wii U launched with games like Trine 2 and stuff that was already on PC.
Right.
Who knows if NX could do something.
Exactly. And if NX's architecture is similar enough to the other consoles, then it should be an easy enough port over from those, right? So...
I bet that it's not. But
we'll have
we
to.
can get onto that.
We'll cross that bridge. Yeah, we'll cross that bridge. But I've just kept going. And
you're gonna talk about it in future when you finally wrap up your 3 years.
Yeah, maybe
see
how my farm looks
on the grand finale.
Exactly. No, I will do. There's still a lot of stuff to do though, because I haven't even got sheep yet, and I haven't even got there are a bunch of animals. Apparently, you can have a dinosaur somehow. It's crazy. But
without a mod or anything.
Without a mod. That's just a weird thing in the game.
That's cool.
So, yes, that's been the main bulk of my time, really. But I did play another game, which I didn't talk about last time. This was a while ago. I jumped into a racing thing, which wasn't a real racing thing. It's like a kart thing. It's a Sonic kart thing. It's I think it's Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, I believe is the full title.
I think you nailed it.
And this was on Wii U. It's still on Wii U. I think it was close to launch, actually, because...
It was really... It was like way before Mario Kart and everything, yeah.
Right, that was the thing, is that Mario Kart wasn't on Wii U yet, and there was the Sonic thing, which people were enjoying and playing. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this game. I think, on the one hand, it teaches Mario Kart a valuable lesson, which is it has a single player that is far more diverse, interesting, and engaging than just playing through Grand Prix. Mario Kart single player, to be frank, is dog shit. It's the least innovative, most bog standard. Like, it's like if a fighting game like Soul Calibur 2, as our point of reference, just had arcade mode and didn't have Weapon Master mode, right? Like, Weapon Master is the real mode. That's the main thing you want to do. Arcade is like, just fight a bunch of people. And that's what Mario Kart feels like. Whereas this game, it kind of puts you along this campaign path where you go from kind of little mini thing to mini thing. Some of them are full races, but some of them are like challenges where it's like, okay, there are these tracks on the ground which are like drift tracks, and you have to like stay inside the drift track while you drift round and like accumulate time and make sure that you get through each ring before your time runs out. So you keep on like building time as you drift, and you need to get to the end, basically. Like, it's just mini challenge stuff. And they do that by using the same courses, but like kind of repurposing them, and like having there'll be like a rivals race where you'll race against like 3 different people, and you need to like get far enough in front of them to like defeat them, and then someone else will pop up, and you keep doing that like 3 times over. And this just like variety and throwing into it reminds me it's definitely not as interesting as Mario Kart DS's mission mode. I think that is far more like well designed and has unique, interesting little challenges. These are kind of like repeated.
Can't believe they got rid of that.
I can't. No, it was so good. It doesn't feel like as handpicked as those do, because they do like continuously use them over and over again. And yeah, it kind of gets long in the tooth by the end of the day. But I definitely think that it's doing something different, and I would like Mario Kart to do that again, because it feels so...
Because, I mean, in terms of a slick kart racer, Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U was just glorious.
It's but mechanics-wise, it is almost flawless.
It just needs that mission mode, or just like a single-player campaign.
Yeah.
And even the Wii version I thought was really interesting, is that for ages with the Mario Kart channel, there would be these missions where you could try and beat the rest of the world online at how quick you could complete the mission. I don't know if you ever did any of those.
No, I didn't. I remember you were really into it, though.
I got obsessed by them for like a little while.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, like Nintendo have improved their online framework, and they didn't do any of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
With 8. So, as much as we want sort of Smash Brothers Mario Kart, which I do think will happen, we need the next step after that, or it should be before that, quite frankly, is to implement some sort of single player or mission mode, because it's just playing Grand Prix just to complete single player is horrible.
Yeah, it totally is. And it's probably going to be imminent on NX, I feel. Like, it's been long enough.
It's one of their biggest cards, and NX, everyone's piling so much pressure on it that they're going to want their biggest cards sooner rather than later, you'd think. So
yeah,
it took a while for the big cards to come out with Wii U. I mean, we've still not got a Zelda. So,
no, exactly.
So I can imagine
the
them,
biggest card
putting all their aces to the top of the deck.
Yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, no, I think there are some other cool things about it, like all the tracks transform, as it were, just like your vehicles do, because the whole kind of gimmick of this game, I guess, is maybe similar to Mario Kart 7, where you have plane and boat mode, but these are like much more like, it's not like Mario Kart 7 where you're just under for a little bit. Like, there will be whole laps where you're just in, like, do
they feel different, or?
Yeah, totally different.
And have you got weapons and stuff?
Yeah, it's weapons, and so like, for example, you'll be on some track that gets destroyed through the course of the race, and by the end, like, there's no track left, so you're just flying through it at the end. So definitely, like, having that is unique and interesting. I think Mario Kart does a little bit of that, where there are some things that change lap to lap, but mainly it kind of stays the same. The problem is it's not mechanically sound. It's fine. Like, it feels okay, and that's a far cry from, like, the sheen and polish of a Mario Kart, because like, the collisions and the way that weapons fire and just the whole kind of physics engine and, like, animation wise, it feels imperfect, and it's hard to kind of nail, like, exactly what it is when you're playing it, but there is something a little off about it. And to me, when it comes to that sort of game, and your only benchmark is Nintendo's, like, high bar of quality, it's very difficult to kind of just say, okay, I'm fine with it, because, like, there's much better out
They've
there.
almost become like a kart monopoly.
Yeah.
Like Mario Kart. It's now like the absolute pinnacle, and they've reached such a high level in terms of, like you said, playability, and, like, how slick that gameplay is, that is so hard to beat.
It is. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I've got some time off now. I need to revise, but also probably play some other games, so I will get going on that. Bally, you'll continue with Xenoblade, and we'll check in, of course, as we go. But yeah, that's going to do it for our first segment. So don't go anywhere. Join us after the break. We'll break down some of your emails. Yeah, see you in a second.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. It is that time again. It is time for a few emails. And when I say a few emails, we are running low on emails. Like, we do not have many emails left. We are putting out the call, the clarion call, which is a trumpet, by the way.
A long trumpet, as we just looked up.
We just looked up.
On Google Images.
That we would like you guys out there listening to this podcast in your ear holes to send us an email. And the address is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That's ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. Comments, questions, thoughts, abuse. We want to hear it.
Not the last one.
We want to hear it. We want your emails, and we will hopefully read them out next time.
And also, if you're someone who's never written in before, that's also great. I think it's cool because we want to hear from different voices. So,
and tell us where you're from.
Yeah,
because that's always fun.
Bally's favourite thing.
My favourite
Stalk
thing.
you on Google Maps.
Our first question is from Ryan, who's from Rochester, New York. Were there any games that you had not as high hopes or excitement for and ended up enjoying more than you thought you would? If not, is there a game that you thought you would really enjoy but were instead disappointed over? Thanks again, guys, and keep up the excellent work.
Okay, this is, I think, easier for me to say now because of a recent game. And the one that is going to stand out, I think, for years to come for me is Codename Steam. I know both of us enjoyed that demo, but then I think a lot of my perception of it was really skewed with the coverage of the US version at launch. Reviews were incredibly harsh. People had so many complaints about it. And there was kind of this argument about the level of difficulty, and people were having a hard time with it. And I thought to myself, I'm not sure about this anymore. And, that's why we held off. That's why we ended up not getting it until much later on when I picked it up really cheap. And having done that, and that game being one of my favorites of last year, and me absolutely loving it, that is my game with a bullet. Something that, I was kind of thinking, it's probably not going to be that great. But for £10, I can't go wrong, right? Super cheap on Amazon, might as well pick it up. Which, coincidentally, I actually brought it back. So I might just slide that to you to
we go.
keep for some time to maybe play later on, Bally. But I think that for me, it's hard to think of anything else. And people like to ask the question, what is the game that you love that everyone else hates? This is my game, with a bullet. I don't think there's anything else in the world that I have loved as much as people have despised. It's an interesting one for sure. It's divisive, so.
I find this question quite tough. I'm lukewarm on a surprising... Without playing them, I'm lukewarm on a very large swath of games. Yeah. And amongst those games I'm lukewarm about, every now and then, MBZ, you'll play them and you'll be like, Bally, this game is amazing. You have to play it. And that's... pretty much every indie game I own. Yeah.
I don't think you have had a dud when it comes to that stuff.
I honestly haven't had a dud. Honestly. Not one of them I would give less than, say, a 5 out of 5, or I don't know, maybe a couple of 4. But I honestly have had a great time with all of them. Yeah. To be honest, the one that I enjoyed the least was the one where I took it myself and went overboard, and I went back to try an Enchanted Edition, and I said, I like Trying 2 so much, I'm going to go back and download the first one. And you're like,
I think that's good as that might be a good one, though, because you had hopes. Oh no, that's the opposite, though, isn't it?
We'll get to opposite, and that'll definitely be one for me. But I'd say most indie games you've recommended to me, stuff like the Swapper on paper looked to me, and I wasn't into puzzle games at all, really. It just looked so dull and really not fun to play, but it was one of my favorite games last year. Yeah. It was so much fun. Shovel Knight we were both pretty hot on. I think that doesn't really count, but loads of other games. Bit Trip Runner, that game looks fine, but when you're actually playing it, it's incredible, and so many great experiences.
Can you think of anything back in the day on N64 or GameCube, or do you think at that time you were just excited for everything? And
I was a real sucker for Mario sports games. I really love the N64 golf and tennis, especially tennis. I think on the GameCube, golf outdid tennis by quite some way. But on the N64, I absolutely love Mario Tennis. But that's not really, lots of people like that game. It's gone down really well. I really like, I guess a lot of people like this game as well. Pokemon Snap, I absolutely love that game.
But yeah, I think the thing is though, like, you didn't necessarily have any expectations at all, like, because it's like a game just shows up and you're like, oh, I like this.
I'm really struggling on this one. A game
it's a hard one though, because it's like, it's the anti-hype. It's like, what were you just like passively? I guess for me, Titanfall actually is a good one.
Yeah.
Like Titanfall, especially in E3 2013 when the whole Xbox PS4 stuff was going on. Like, I remember Giant Bomb having the Titanfall Respawn come into their studio to do their kind of after-show talks. And the interview was interesting and stuff, but I thought to myself, like, okay, it's like another Call of Duty. Like, why should I care about this?
I mean, this is a bit spoilery for episode 64, because I'm going to talk about it next time.
Yeah.
But Pokemon Red at the moment, I did not have high hopes for how much I would like that game.
Come back and like it again.
Come back and like it. So
because you already had like preconceived notions of like, I've played all this Pokemon. How could I like
the very first one which has all the random crap in it that they fixed for later ones? So how could I like that? But it holds up so well, and I'm having an absolute great time. Obviously, so many people love a game like Pokemon Red. I thought, I've said this before on the show, but I thought Metroid Prime was a real coin flip for me. I thought I'd either love it or hate it.
Right, it was a Marmite moment with Metroid Prime.
And I just absolutely loved it, so definitely. But I'd say, like I said at the start, the biggest crop of most of the indie games NBZ's recommended to me, which have on paper look fine, but when you actually play them and complete them, they're really satisfying, really great games.
Actually, you know what? You bring up Metroid Prime has reminded me, the reason that I'm so sour on Metroid Prime games is because O&M gave Prime 2 97%, and it was like one of the highest reviewed games they'd ever had, and then they had that subscription offer, which we both did. You got Pikmin 2, I got Metroid Prime 2, because I was like, man, this game must be amazing, right? Because it's got 97%, and I really disliked playing Metroid Prime 2. That is one where I was like, that's the opposite. That's like the second question. Yeah. So I think that's a good example. If we move to that, Metroid Prime 2 was like, oh, this game's going to be amazing. And then I was like, it's not for me. Yeah. At that time, anyway. I'm going back to the Prime series here and there.
Yeah. And I'm interested because I'm going to play Metroid Prime 2 very soon on the Wii. Well, on the Wii U, on the Wii version.
Yes.
From the trilogy.
Shall
we move on to that second question?
Yeah.
What disappointments?
My biggest one is probably Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon.
DS.
Yeah, on DS. So Shadow Dragon's a remake of the original Fire Emblem.
That is out on the Virtual Console.
It is.
And I watched they have the videos on the eShop.
Yeah,
I watched the video of that just last week, and I was like, well, I'm making a face here. It's like it doesn't work on the podcast.
No, it doesn't.
I'm like holding my mouth open, looking like it looked bad. It looks really bad. Like the anime sprite design is horrible.
So the setup for this is I was finishing up my last school exams, and it was the summer of 2010. So Mario Galaxy 2 just come out, I think, and it was when I first got my first capture card. And I started recording Lost Winds and stuff, and doing my Let's Play stuff. At that point in time, I'd ordered a bunch of shit from Amazon, so it all came at once. I got that capture device, I got Galaxy 2, and the other thing I got was Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon.
Oh, you actually own it?
Yeah, I have a copy on DS. So I ordered it, and I started playing it, and very quickly I realized, like, because I hadn't played a Fire Emblem game in a long time at that point. Like, I owned Sacred Stones on GBA. I played 7 before. I'd never played the GameCube or Wii one, so it had been like a good gap, I think, in my Fire Emblem playing, non-emulator stuff. And I was excited to try a new one. And it got here, I started it, and I was like, this game is ugly. This game, like...
But is it mechanically good?
I don't find it that fun mechanically either, because here's the problem. Shadow Dragon feels like they did really nothing to update how the game plays, compared to that original. So it feels so archaic when you go back to it.
Will you ever go back and finish that game?
So I've been toying with the idea of going back and streaming Shadow Dragon and seeing. But I think I'll only do that once I've played through Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, which are games that I am much more interested in. And Fates, obviously, eventually. But Shadow Dragon is just one of those, like, it's this dark blot on one of my favourite franchises, and I just God, it's so horribly... I wish they'd done a unique new Fire Emblem on DS, but it's hard because they're in this era of like transferring from sprites to 3D, and the DS was like a halfway house, and the thing they came out with was just, it looks so mushy, you know, just ugly as all hell, and turned me off completely. Yeah, and there's way too many characters. It's got a lot of problems, and maybe one day I'll go back to it, but that's a tough one, that Shadow Dragon.
I was super disappointed by Yoshi's Woolly World.
Yeah.
And we've said this so many times before. It's just platforming by the numbers, and other than the art style, in my opinion, does nothing new. It's a fun game to play, it's fine, but it definitely was disappointing.
Especially from Good Feel. You know, I played Warland Shake It, and you're going to get to that soon. But like the way that I talked about that, and everyone really loved Epic Yarn, like these guys have a pedigree, and I think I enjoyed it more than you did. Like I said, they had a fun time with Yoshi's Woolly World, but I don't begrudge like the way you felt about it, especially after Yoshi's Island. So
yeah, definitely. Other disappointments. Not too many, because I tend to play games I'm quite interested in and excited about, and they rarely disappoint.
Yeah, I think the stuff we get excited for is generally stuff that we know is going to be good. Yeah. Like, it seems from the coverage beforehand, obviously that's that's a veil in many senses, and we don't 100% know, but I think Nintendo, of all the companies, do a good job of positioning their products as like, well, we kind of know that Animal Crossing board game is going to be a pile of shit, you know? Like, you can kind of smell it coming, and I think blood's in the water for Star Fox Zero right now. So
yeah, I'm intrigued by that. I'm gonna get that on launch, I think, and I'm not sure about Star Fox Guard.
Well, if you get the right version, it just comes with it. I think. I don't think you have to pay for it. Yeah,
I'll look into that, but yeah, I'm quite keen on that, and we'll see.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for the question, Ryan. Interesting stuff.
Our next question is from James. He's from Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. Hey guys, haven't written in for a while, but after listening to the most recent episode, I just had to send this and speak my mind. Please play Paper Mario for N64 as the next Backlog Club game, or even if it's not Backlog Club, please just play it in general. Paper Mario is easily one of my top games of all time. Do not be put off by Sticker Star or even the Wii edition in the series, as these two games do not do the original Paper Mario 64 or even GameCube's Thousand Year Door justice. Anyways, just something to think about. While on the topic of Mario RPG games, do either of you have any experience with Super Mario RPG for SNES? I have been thinking about trying it out for a while, but wanted to know if you had any opinions.
All right. I think Paper Mario is a series that we have constantly talked about as like, that's a thing we should both play at some point. I know Paper Mario pretty well. I've only played Sticker Star, but I've watched LPs of the first game. I've seen Thousand Year Door played through before, like, and obviously not playing through it yourself is a certain level of abstraction, and I've forgotten a lot of things about those games. But I have a good idea of where they're pitched, and having played the Mario and Luigi series, you know, mechanically they're very, very similar. So
in terms of Backlog Club, we won't give too much away, but we're definitely not doing a Game Boy Advance game next.
Absolutely, yes.
Because we've done two in the past. It's in the mix, but we haven't decided yet. We don't know, but hopefully get that going again at some point. Yeah,
the original Paper Mario is actually a very good shout for a potential Backlog Club in the future. I don't think it's super long for an RPG, so it works in its favour, and it definitely has a lot of talking points and things that I'd be interested to hear your opinion on, because I know quite a bit about that game and you know, the way it works mechanically and everything, and I think it's like kind of another kind of fresh experience for you that you haven't played before. So
Super Mario RPG for SNES.
Yeah, so here's the funny thing. I don't think Super Mario RPG ever came out in Europe. Not
even on Virtual Console.
No, it did on Virtual Console, but the original Super Nintendo version, like, I don't think Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger ever came out here either. Like, I think there are a lot of those games on Super Nintendo that didn't come to Europe, and Super Mario RPG is one of those, and it's held in high regard. You can tell by the number of people who keep saying Geno for Smash Brothers that Super Mario RPG is held in high regard. Like, those guys are fucking crazy. In the end, they got a Geno costume, so, you know, they may have been satiated, but it's weird, because that character, you clearly, like, you've never played this game, you don't know anything about it.
I know of the character.
Yeah, but, like, Geno's this weird, like, puppet who comes to life, and he, like, joins the party. Mario RPG is really interesting, because I think it's the first time where, like, Bowser comes along and, like, helps, and, like, it actually takes Mario on a story and you know, has dialogue and everything. And it's curious because it wasn't made by Nintendo. Super Mario RPG is a Square Enix game, or Square.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was made by Square. So it definitely has kind of, you know, bleed over from some Final Fantasy stuff in there. I think there's... So I watched Nintendo Capri Sun play through this game quite a while ago. So my memory of it is a little hazy. But I believe there's like a secret boss you can find, which is someone from the Final Fantasy series, and you can fight them within the game. Like, there's a lot of Easter eggs. I think Samus is an Easter egg in this game. Like, you find her like in a bed somewhere or in a morph ball. I can't remember the exact nature of it. But it's definitely a game like Paper Mario that I would like to revisit at some point. Having never played it. Like, I say revisit in terms of, you know, I've already seen someone play through it. But yeah, it's definitely on the hit list. Of course, there's loads of things on the hit list, and that's probably further down the queue than some others. But we'll get there. Like, I feel like a lot of this podcast is us going down the hit list, right?
Yeah, and it's a never-ending list, to be honest. So
I mean,
just have to order it right.
It ends in places, but
yeah,
you know, we're getting there.
But I mean, that's my big goal at the moment, is to get rid of my backlog so that I can progress through that hit list fast.
So that one week you can, you know, get on Skype and be like, by the way, I just beat Paper Mario or Mario RPG, and I'll be like, fucking what? When did you play that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll just pick up stuff out of the blue.
Exactly.
Surprise MBZ.
Yeah, wonderful.
So our final question this week is from John, again, from the Nintendo Show.
Indeed.
And as always, make sure you check out that show on iTunes.
Yes.
It's a good one. So in reference to our complaints that the US has Yokai Watch months before us, John says, I'll take that trade any day, Paper Jam and Yoshi for Yokai Watch. Here's a question though, what first-party franchise would be a fair trade for a third-party franchise? Kirby for Mega Man, Mother for Final Fantasy, F-Zero for Castlevania?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because it's not necessarily what would we trade, it's what would be a fair trade for a third-party franchise. So we may come at this a little bit more economically, although I think I have like my personal preferences tinged in there. Do you have anything, Bally?
I'd trade away Kirby for quite a lot of those suggestions, to be honest.
Yeah?
I don't know, just because Kirby's fine, but out of all the sort of Nintendo franchises that we're into, he's not exactly at the top.
The thing is, like, if we're saying like a fair trade, right, you'd have to have an analogy for Kirby. So
it has
a
to be
2D platformer,
something
something with, I don't know, power-ups. I mean, his suggestion of Mega Man actually is kind of perfect, but you know, because you take on the boss's powers, right?
Yeah, Mega Man is like Kirby on steroids, I guess.
Yeah,
it's like tougher, a lot tougher,
yes,
a lot more fun.
For me, I think I want Nintendo to have Castlevania because at the moment Metroid's doing fuck all.
So you're going to give away my F-Zero for Castlevania?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
That's not a trade.
Just checking.
I feel like what Nintendo are doing with Metroid right now is just experimental and weird, and they're not doing traditional 2D Metroid games. And if they're going to do that with Metroid, just have a franchise that you can lean on and crutch on for just bread and butter exploration, upgrade, Metroidvania style games.
What if they did a Metroidvania style game with either a new character or a different character to Samus?
I mean,
DK, boom, 2D
Metroidvania. No.
DK.
I that's possible, right? They could do that, but you know, I feel like if they were to get the Castlevania franchise, like think of what Konami were doing back in the GBA DS games. Like every year they'd put out one of those. Like they're just a consistent stream. Like, and I would happily play one of those a year. Like, absolutely, undoubtedly. Like, just a consistent knock 'em out. There are certain franchises where I'm like, you know, probably take a break from this.
I mean, some people say that about Zelda.
Yeah.
With, like, that structure of a game like Link Between Worlds. Why not just bring out another one with new dungeons and new power-ups next year? A bit like Phantom Hourglass to Spirit Tracks. Like, people say, like, why don't you just annualize it a bit more? And it's...
Yeah.
I personally feel that franchises like that, you need to back off and be careful and just think about the hype that's going forward to the Wii U version. You can't get that every time.
Yeah, for me, though, there's something about that genre that is so repeatable. Like, I can play multiple...
Metroidvania, you mean?
Yeah, I can play those games till the end of time and be satisfied. And maybe that's just me as a person. Maybe it's just that style of game. I don't know what it is particularly, but it offers like a level of satisfaction that nothing else does. Like, we saw that when I played Zero Mission and beat it in like 2 sittings, and like I consistently, like, I go through a bunch of these all the time. My favorite game last year was Ori and the Blind Forest. I like busted my way through Axiom Verge. Like, I will eat them up. And that's why I would like Nintendo to have the Castlevania franchise, so that they can just keep putting those, just make more. Just give me a new map every year, give me new weapons and upgrades, that I'll be done. So I think that's my big one. Is there anything else you can think of, Bally, that you would personally, like, any third-party franchise that sticks out to you? If there's nothing, there's nothing.
There needs to be some way, like, Nintendo need to do more open world. Like, it's like the one area they've never really done.
Yeah.
And like so many other companies, especially like Ubisoft, just love their open world games and just. I don't know what I'd trade for one of these other franchises, but just I think you just need Nintendo to learn more from everyone else and say, hey, we can do that.
Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't say they should learn from Ubisoft, because that model of open world, I think, has got very long in the tooth.
I think that's people like Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, people who have only played one entry of it, and the entries that they played...
I thought the last one was quite good, apparently. Not that I've played
Right,
it.
yeah, but I don't know. I think like that kind of design ethos, especially the way Ubisoft does it, it's like, go to the tower to open up the map. Go to the tower to...
Well, imagine an open world game with the clean Nintendo polish we're so used to.
Well, welcome to Legend of Zelda Wii U, Bally, coming out November 2016.
There we go.
I think my last one would be, I want Persona. I think Persona needs to be, the mainline series Persona needs to be on Nintendo stuff. I don't know what I'd trade for it. I just like, if you're going to do a fair trade, as John proposes, I'd say you'd have to trade an RPG for an RPG. But does that mean you trade the Mother series? Does that mean you trade the Mario and Luigi series? Does that mean you trade Golden Sun?
Trade Mario for Mickey Mouse.
Yeah? Sure. I mean, when was the last good Mickey Mouse game?
That's my point. If Nintendo owned him, they could make some great stuff.
Yeah, they could.
In terms of like a character.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Like, that's not a traditional third-party character you'd think of, but Mickey Mouse, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Although his games have been on Nintendo before. So.
I think he'd be such an interesting character to get into a game like Smash Brothers.
Oh man.
I think it would be, I don't know. And that's the thing, and as stupid as this sounds, I think James Jones brought it up on RFN about the last Nintendo Direct. Yeah. And it was about that. There's like this painting.
It was Art Academy. Disney Art Academy.
Exactly. Yeah. So that it's the first time that Nintendo and Disney have teamed up in some way, right? And it's produced this game. And his point was, this could provide scope for the future, but maybe you shouldn't read into Art Academy too much.
And that's very much dipping the toe, like the most dipping of the toe. It's almost like you're not even touching the water.
Yeah, they probably just sent over like screenshots of like fixed characters from all their films and said, right, you're allowed to do this with them. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, you know, there's lots of potential there, but I think those are the ones that we take. So there you go. Is that it? That's our emails.
That is all our emails for this show. But like I said at the top of the segment, please send in more emails. Our address is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That's ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. Please send in your emails. We need more, because otherwise, one day there'll be a show, and we'll just say, right, guys, there's no email segment.
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
Let's talk about Star Wars instead.
That might be too much of a carrot.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, dear. Oh, jeez. All right. Yeah. Anyway, next segment. Let's go. Yay! Alright everyone, welcome back to the show for our final segment, in which we're just going to talk and we're just going to rap about all the fucking craziness that happened recently.
So much craziness.
Surrounding the NX and a potential leaked controller, which all turned out to be bullshit, and I just want to open up this discussion as like, what the hell is going on right now, and the frame of mind of the Nintendo fan, and the press, and what their role is, and what the fucking Nintendo's role is, and God, just trying to, get through all the nonsense leading up to
what
console.
Happened.
So, I think it was a couple of weeks ago that
Did we discover it at the same time, roughly?
Yeah, I think,
we were both in and around Twitter.
I mean, when something like this happens, it will make the rounds very quickly.
Yeah.
So, an image leaks. I believe it's from 4chan. Might have been from Reddit. I can't remember. It's one of those dark underground realms of the internet, and this photo appears of what people were claiming, or the person who posted it claimed, was the NX controller, which was this kind of oval-shaped thing with two nipples, as some people have said. They're kind of like slide pad, almost like...
They're more similar to a circle pad than an analog stick.
Yeah, they're halfway house between analog stick and circle pad. And no buttons. 0 buttons. And I think it was said that the shoulders were roller sticks, like on a mouse wheel. Like a mouse wheel roller kind of thing. This set some people off, but it also made people consider, wait a second, okay, so this is like pretty much exactly what the patent that Nintendo filed a while ago looked like. So they filed a patent which was this same shape controller with these analog sticks embedded into the screen of the controller, and they also, I believe, in that patent mentioned that the shoulder buttons would have a kind of rolling mouse wheel style thing, which, if I'm just going to break this down right now, I actually think that's kind of a cool idea. Like the notion of having the ability to like scroll through an inventory. Playing Stardew Valley at the moment, I'm playing it with a controller, but I actually think it would be more convenient in terms of inventory management to be using a mouse and keyboard, because of the fact that I can use the mouse wheel to scroll along the bottom. It's a big problem with Minecraft as well, is that when you're playing Minecraft on console, it only allows you to tap buttons to go across your inventory instead of like the ease of the mouse wheel scrolling. So I think like if Nintendo were to do that, hey, I probably wouldn't mind too much. I think it's actually a pretty innovative idea, having a shoulder button that scrolls.
But there was consensus. I shouldn't bang the table with the mic, but there's consensus that was a consensus, maybe not the consensus.
Yeah.
And you were in this group, and certainly a lot of people.
Actually, no. I think that you talking about like me believing it was true, or
not necessarily believing it was true, but you were more true than you were fake.
Right, but I will say that that only came into effect after the second photo leaked.
Okay,
go
ahead.
So after the first photo leaked, a lot of people were speculating on it. I personally thought it was a fake the first time I saw it, and the reason was
white.
Yeah, and the reason is this looks way too much like the pattern. There are two ways you can come at this. Like the first way is this looks like the pattern, therefore it's real. The second way is this looks like the pattern, therefore it's fake. Because the way that a lot of patents work is that the company deliberately goes out of their way to show a product that does not look like what the final thing actually looks like. Like, they'll have the concepts in there and they'll have the ideas, but the form factor will be completely fucking different.
And the faker would try and make their fake look like the patent.
Exactly. So that's the problem, is like going off just the patent image means it feels much more false than anything else. So that's why on the first image, there are a few things that came out. Number one, there was an Unreal 4 tech demo that mapped perfectly onto the screen. Someone pointed out there was a GIF of NeoGAF of someone showing it like, fade in and fade out onto the screen, so you could tell like it's just been ripped from this image. That was also a potential area of debate because, NX might run Unreal 4 and that might be an actual demo. But in any case, that was deemed fake, and a lot of people, I think, didn't believe this first one, right? Like, it was a bit blurry. It didn't look like the kind of thing that Nintendo would make. I think that's probably one of the key things. Like, it didn't look like what Nintendo would do. It looked like a Vita on crack, and it looked like a kind of finished product. Like, it looked kind of sheen and not like development hardware.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what development hardware looks like, but from what people have said, it's supposedly much jankier. Like, the original PS4 development hardware was apparently this huge box that was, like, way heavier and much less kind of streamlined than the final product was, right?
Yeah.
So those are kind of the things that lay up what happened next. Because what happened next basically broke the internet, which was new images came out of the same controller, this time in black, on a table. Like, maybe someone could do that in Photoshop, but it fucking looked real as hell. Like, it looked like a physical object on a table that was sitting there with headphones plugged into it. It felt...
Next to a Wii U gamepad.
Next to a Wii U gamepad, which I think was a little bit of, I don't know, maybe...
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, exactly. The guy kind of pushing over the edge a little. But this is what fucking set everyone off. And yeah, let's talk about it.
So, yeah. Okay, when I first saw it, I was genuinely on the fence. Half of me was really worried that this was real.
Yeah.
And half of me was like, that's the most un-Nintendo thing I've ever seen. It can't be real. I was genuinely split. I couldn't decide. A lot of people, and I would argue perhaps the most vocal people, were convinced this was real for a number of reasons, and we can go into those. But the issue became, and we had very different views on this, the issue became, there was a consensus of people, like I was saying before, that I would perhaps group you in MBZ, who were more convinced that it was real over fake. And because they thought it was they generally thought it was real, that because it was so bad and the internet was slating it so hard, which they were, for very legitimate reasons,
right,
that it would have to force Nintendo's hand, and they'd have to say something, do something, announce something, clear something up, some sort of press release, anything, before E3, because that's, to our knowledge, that's when we're next going to hear about the NX officially from Nintendo, is E3. We don't know anything else. No one does, supposedly. So the issue was, should Nintendo, assuming this was real, which at the time many people thought, should Nintendo say anything or not? And I was of the view, no, don't give the game away. Even if it is real, you justify it to E3, and if it's fake, you're laughing. Ultimately, it was fake and they were laughing. But at the time, I was of the view, look, yes, the internet is slating it, but the internet slates a lot of things. Like, stick to the party line, stick to what you know is going to be good at E3. And I had this weird mentality in my head that even though the controller looked like that, Nintendo would be able to sell it at E3.
Yeah, no, I actually, as well, as someone who believed in the leak and believed that it was true, despite, all this stuff, I was pretty convinced that it would be explained and Nintendo would have justifiable reasons for why they were removing buttons and why they were doing this with certain technologies, because in the past...
at the same time, part of you was like, what are they doing?
Right, it's very split. It's like fucking... The only people Nintendo have right now are their core audience. That is it. Like, no one else cares. If they alienate those people and take away, like, the one tangible
buttons.
thing that makes like people care about their consoles,
D-pads and buttons,
right,
basically,
then fucking who is their market anymore? Because suddenly you have a probably high-end consumer product that people who aren't interested in games and have phones, maybe they are fine with touchscreens, but they're not going to buy a dedicated thing with a touchscreen console when they already have a phone, right? You know?
But you were really keen for Nintendo to do something.
Yes. I really thought that this could be a hugely damaging situation. The problem is, when a market finds out about a product, there's a snap judgment made, right?
Yeah.
People see something and instantly they go...
like the Wii.
Right, or here, then they go, that. That's what I'm going to think about this.
Yeah.
And it is so hard to change that, right? It is so difficult.
Everyone has like a gut reaction to anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've seen this with Nintendo in the past, with the Wii U gamepad. All these mainstream people, and actually, quite embarrassingly, a lot of actual games press who should have known better thought that it was just an add-on to the Wii. And personally, as someone who was paying attention and not being a fucking idiot, like I've heard multiple people on like from IGN and GameSpot who were like, oh, I didn't know. Like, clearly, these are people who don't know anything about Nintendo and weren't even paying attention properly. I understand how the mainstream...
They saw one image and thought,
yeah.
It's an extension of my Wii.
Exactly. And I won't defend Nintendo in their messaging because I don't think they did a great job of it. Absolutely, but I think if you were actually paying attention, you would fucking realise that.
Yeah.
But of course, the mainstream aren't going to. So that's a huge issue. Secondly, the more recent and pressing one, which is put Microsoft in the shitter, is the whole DRM stuff from the Xbox One initial reveal. That stuff, you know, Dan Reichert talked about recently, I think, like going in a taxi and talking to some guy and him still thinking that the Xbox One was constrained in that way and that you wouldn't be able to like trade games and all that stuff. And that is hugely damaging because despite the fact that Microsoft went back on that stuff and changed all their policies and made it good, they're still way behind PS4. And it is that initial showing and that initial impact on consumers that caused that ripple, right? So had this been legitimate, had this been Nintendo's actual controller, they are losing so many consumers without them knowing anything about it, without them, you know, coming out there and explaining it and justifying it and giving them a reason to not be worried.
Core 10 million are very important to them.
Yeah, so those guys are important, but it's also important to find people who have moved away from Nintendo, who still like their franchises and would like to play them again and would like to have a system worth owning. When they see something like that and they immediately make a snap judgment, you've lost someone before you've even had a chance to convert them back again. And that was my huge worry, was if this is real, they need to say something about it, because if they don't and just leave it hanging until E3, you have 2 months of people either writing it off or just giving up and not caring about Nintendo anymore. And they could come out at E3, have great games, people still wouldn't care, right? And that would be the issue. It's like they could explain it perfectly. People could say, oh, haptic buttons, and people could go to E3 and explain it and like write articles and say, no, it does actually kind of work, like people did with the gamepad. And they're like, hey, the gamepad actually is like, it's really light and like it seems smart. Obviously, it's got, like the touchscreen stuff is a bit iffy, but I feel that that would still happen and that they would be in a really weak position if it were real. So that was where I was coming from with that. And that's why I was so passionate about them, like, fucking say something, you know?
Yeah.
Like, God.
It was so interesting because, I mean, I joked at you and I said, MZ, if everyone calls you, like, a Yeti...
Yeah, yes. I'm now a Yeti.
You're now a Yeti. Yeah. Everyone's calling you a Yeti, but you don't want to be a Yeti. You don't want to be associated with this. At what point do you speak up and say, hey guys, I'm not actually a Yeti? Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, is it like a certain percentage of fans, or is it a certain percentage of internet dominance? Because, I mean, with this, I feel like it was arguably a minority of people that were ultimately shouting the loudest. Yeah. And I feel like for Nintendo to ever respond to something like that, they'd be stepping down quite a lot to sort of their level. Do you know? See where I'm coming from?
I guess. Yeah. I mean, like, that's the problem. Is like
they don't want to be controlled by a vocal minority online. That's just dangerous, is what I mean.
Yeah, but it's also, we don't comment on rumor and speculation is the other thing. It's like, it doesn't... all the other companies do this. where
Yeah.
this has been a recent story as well, but PlayStation 4.5, the supposed more powerful hardware.
Well, obviously this was the NX leak was fake, but this 4.5 is starting to look more and more like
yeah,
real
absolutely.
and,
Wall Street Journal recently just I think just today published a new article on it, like confirming more stuff about it. I very much trust Patrick Klepek's reporting. I think that they are also in a bad situation because you have consumers who've just bought a PS4 who are like in a boat now of like, what do I do? And then like, who's going to buy one now if there's this prospect of a new box on the horizon that could offer them, you know, better hardware at probably a similar price? Why would you risk like buying a PS4? That it's got me thinking, as someone who wants to play Uncharted 4 and get a PS4, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just...
Uncharted 4 not out yet, it's very bad timing as well.
Exactly. Like, had that not been delayed, I may have already jumped on it. But now I'm thinking, okay, well, this rumor seems legit. I'm not going to buy a PS4 anymore. I'm going to wait until this gets cleared up. And Sony are in a bad place because they need to say something about it, but also they want a venue to do that. And E3 is that venue, I think. And I think that's where we're going to hear more about whatever Microsoft are planning or whatever Sony. But it's to their detriment right now because they're losing sales. Like, they could be selling more PS4s, but if this rumor, supposedly true, propagates through people, their sales are going to tail off.
And you think they're waiting till E3 as well?
Yeah, I feel like they are at the moment. I'm sure they might have to like take a look at their sales numbers and try and do some damage control potentially before then. But it's a similar position they're in.
But let's go back to Nintendo.
Yeah.
So we think the NX is coming out this year. Lots of
Yes.
people do. Don't know if Nintendo do, but
Yeah.
it's in development. People have kits. How do they keep the lid on all of this?
By, oh god, see,
Paying them a lot of money.
yeah, no, hardware has leaked in the
I
past.
think something real is going to leak before E3. It has to.
It's so dangerous. Like, Nintendo's ultimate problem is if they give development kits to Western developers, they're far more likely to go online and leak this stuff. It's not necessarily the developers there, but like, I can't remember who was saying it, but like, some of these leaks have happened because there's a janitor who works in the building and knows that this stuff is there, and they're not under an NDA, so they don't have to, sign contracts and be under obligation. They can just post shit online.
Yeah.
I think that's far more likely in the West, where that kind of culture is much more like, I feel like
even if something gets leaked, if they can't trace it, there's no punishments.
Yeah. No, I know.
So I mean, like, if it does leak, no one's going to get punished because no one will reveal the leaker. Is my point. It will all be so cloak and dagger. But let's make a hypothetical situation, which I would put money on happening.
Okay.
The controller leaks.
Yeah.
It's something that is a lot nicer looking than, this football-shaped thing, monstrosity that came out.
Right.
But at the same time, there's something up with it that makes everyone a bit like, oh, I'm a bit worried about X.
Okay.
But it's not something that makes us go, oh, I'm not buying it. It's something like, I'm a bit worried.
Yes.
But it's the sort of something I'm a bit worried that could really be sold really well at E3.
Okay.
Say that happens a month out from E3. What do Nintendo do? Do they just sit on it, or are you still of the opinion that they need to do like a quick statement or something?
I think they could do what Microsoft and Sony did. Not that like they're perfect and you should follow their model, but I think it was smart to reveal the hardware ahead of E3, because then E3 can be focused on the games. And I think that's what a lot of people care about is, yes, they want to know what this box is going to be, what this controller is going to be, but ultimately none of that matters unless the software is available for it. I think you need to satiate the crowd by giving them the unknown and then build up to the stuff that will, help them care more about that system. And by doing an event, even if you just show the controller, which I don't think they'll do because it burned them last time, as we've just discussed. I
don't think they will, but like I said, I think it will get leaked.
Yeah. So I think that could be a potential way of going if they find themselves in that situation. They may take that situation away by announcing, hey, by the way, we're going to have a direct or a live event which explains this before people jump on it.
And that's the thing, like, if they think there's a chance of it getting leaked, which I'm sure they do, they need to be recording that direct, like, imminently.
Sure.
Why don't, like, do you think they would actually, and even if they did do this, they'd never announce it, obviously.
Yeah.
But do you think they have a backup filmed direct, which is an NX reveal?
So you mean
this
like...
is very meta now,
so
isn't
you mean like in the event of...
Exactly.
Of some craziness, like, you know, if aliens invade, there's like a thing, or it's like the BBC, don't they have like a videotape for like some like crazy, some crazy situation?
It's some people singing some anthem that represents the world from the Cold War,
right?
And they've kept it just in case it's like end of the world,
just in case. It's
crazy. And I think loads of broadcasters have it.
Yeah,
but even broadcasters, they practice for potential assassinations.
Yes, exactly.
And the Queen.
They have to have stuff ready.
Like they have to have stuff ready. So I'm saying, why don't Nintendo have an emergency backup end of the world?
Yeah.
And the full controller is leaked.
Yes.
Boom, it's out there.
Okay.
The internet is concerned about there's something that's up with it. Let's have a
control the message right then and there.
Control the message.
Basically.
Let's film it now.
Have a bullet in the chamber, because otherwise you're left standing there.
I think Nintendo, if it did leak, which would be bad,
yes,
I do think Nintendo would earn a heap of respect if the next day they're like, well, here's a direct.
Yeah. No, they would.
They might still look like they slipped up on a banana skin, but they'll look like they will have at least recovered effectively. Right. And like you said, E3 could then be games.
Yeah. No, that's smart, and I think that if they did do that, it would kill the story instantly, in the sense that when people think back on that situation, the period of time between this leak and them talking about it would be so slim that in everyone's minds it would blend together, and you know that negative perception wouldn't be there anymore. Hopefully, is what you imagine.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to say. The other thing is, like, how many Western developers actually have NX dev kits? Like, I've seen Thomas Mahler, who is one of the main guys one of the main developers on Ori and the Blind Forest, has been complaining on NeoGAF threads about Nintendo and about the other console manufacturers, how they don't get hardware out there, early hardware specs or dev kits to people for launch, like, ready enough.
I think that's a valid point, and that maybe that's part of Nintendo's plan, is that the biggest launch games are all first party.
Yes.
And that there's not going to be big third party launch games. They're going to be later. Yeah. Maybe that's bad in and of itself, but that's a different debate.
Yeah.
But maybe they've said, right, well, we're going to do Metroid, we're going to do Mario, we're going to do Zelda, we'll keep it to ourselves, keep it quiet, all controlled, great games come out at launch, good launch hopefully, who knows, and then go from there. But see, the thing, they definitely have kits in Japan. Like, they have their key partners, right? Square Enix are clearly working on something. Bandai Namco worked on Smash Brothers. Clearly, great relationship there. There's something coming from them. Retro.
That's internal. I'm talking about third parties.
Okay.
Atlas probably have something. Maybe. I think that, like, these key partnerships in Japan, you're less likely to get any sort of leak. I think it's probably just a cultural thing, right? Like, Japan's much more honor-bound society. Like, if you were to do that to your company, you're supposed to, like, be at your company for life almost. Like, that's how a lot of their jobs work there. I find it much less likely that anything, like, gets leaked out of that region, which means, like, they can feel safer, you know, having titles from those guys. Yeah, the real problem is when it comes to Western third parties. And I imagine they've had talks with EA, and like, GDC has just happened, right? Like, you imagine they are having conversations about NX there with them. I don't know whether they have hardware yet. Like, that's the problem. Is
you can have a developer kit without the hardware.
No. I mean, they might just be having discussions about it, and they not necessarily actually have physical stuff. But so it's all about a time gap, really, is what it is. Is the longer they take to reveal, the longer it is before they can justifiably put hardware into developers' hands without worry of risk of it leaking, right?
So you were saying announce the hardware really early, all the devs have it
Yeah.
really early, better launch lineup, third parties, etc.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is...
And you're worried they've not done that.
Yeah.
And we're starting to think they've not done that.
Yeah, because nothing's leaked
Yeah.
at all. I mean, other stuff has, but that's clearly they're plugging all the NX holes.
And here's the thing is that when we're talking about leaks, we're mainly talking about this controller.
Yeah.
And like what it's going to look like. That's where I feel Nintendo are in a unique position, where I feel like people didn't really care anything like as much about the Xbox One controller or the PS4 controller.
Because you know what it's going to be.
Because you know what it's going to be. So the pressure on leaking is tiny.
Yes.
And is what I mean. And that so much energy is going to be put into people trying to leak this thing because the internet is just craving it. And it's such a unique position, and it's not happened, since obviously the Wii U, but the Wii and just the controversy with that controller.
I think Nintendo are also guilty of being so much more worried about their ideas being stolen by competitors, and they don't like having the Wii remote, that idea being out there, because then people start to make their own versions on Sony on Move or whatever,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's so hard. It's such a hard line to draw. But anyway, maybe coming back to the actual leak itself and the things that we were talking about, the second image was confirmed as fake, but it wasn't a Photoshop. A guy 3D printed the controller, and this is what's scary now. It's because it feels like you can't trust anything anymore. The era of 3D printing has meant that literally everything is up for grabs. You can make something that looks incredibly legitimate, and it is just someone just made it in an afternoon,
That's true, but I would say the TNL podcast listeners, or to be precise, TNL podcast Twitter followers,
yes,
guessed right, as we wrapped up a poll straight away as soon as we saw the leak.
Yeah.
And we asked, is the leak real or fake?
Yeah.
And 23% thought it was real, and 77% thought it was fake. And that was with 80 votes. So pretty good.
Yeah.
So
good sample size.
Well done, Twitter followers, for getting that right. But like you said, you're right. You cannot trust anything anymore. And it is an incredibly well put together, polished bit of plastic that guy created that looks really, really realistic.
A lot of it has to do with the camera angle and stuff as well, but just the way that it was all set up.
And there's an incredible video of him online, making it for those interested, and just watching it come out of the 3D printer with all its residue almost coming off it is really interesting, and the way he sands it down, and he's got different sprays that have different finishes to impersonate rubber versus a shine, all that sort of thing. It's really, really impressive. But yeah, you're right, MBZ, you cannot trust anything.
The Rayman Smash Brothers thing last year was so convincing. So convincing, and now we find ourselves in a situation where a real physical object has fucking fooled everyone.
Yeah. So it's between fooling for the hardware and, like you said, Rayman last year, fooling for the software.
Yeah. We're fucked.
We have been
basically
fooled twice, and it's just going to keep coming. And these next few months in the run up to E3 are just going to be an absolute sight to watch.
The funniest thing will be if the real NX controller launch, and because of all this syndrome of people, it's like the boy who cried wolf. It's everyone believed, and then no one believes anymore, despite the actual NX controller leaking. Everyone's going to be nah, fuck, some other guy 3D printed it,
Or the NX controller just looking as similar to the Wii U gamepad as possible or something.
Yeah.
It's just...
What are we going to do?
The thing is, all we can do is comment, and we can say, yeah, that looks real.
Yeah.
That does look real. Yeah. And slam our fists and demand Nintendo to announce something. But
they really got people. There were people on the press side. Andy McNamara, who's the editor-in-chief of Game Informer, kind of added fuel to the fire by saying he'd heard from sources that Nintendo were working on something that didn't have buttons on it, which is still a worrying statement, despite the fact that this has come out and been fake. But loads of people thought it was real.
Liam Robertson, he saved the day.
He did.
He was the first person that tweeted that I sort of believed and thought, okay, we're all good. It's fake. Obviously, he was on the show quite a number of episodes ago.
He was,
but we'd highly recommend following him on Twitter.
Yeah, he is the inside scoop on many things.
He is the inside scoop. He has a network, we might say, that he feels confident in, and he tweeted that he knows people at Nintendo Europe. He tweeted, and they basically told him, yeah, it's fake. So
also, there was a Nintendo of America employee who had retweeted the NeoGAF thread of this, which also kind of gave a hint that, they're sitting in the treehouse fucking laughing their asses off at this.
And
Can you imagine being inside the treehouse when this was happening? Oh, dear. The whole thing with the tree, people trying to trace the fact that there was a reflection of a tree in the monitor.
And there was some other photo from a studio.
Right, for a studio in
Sweden.
Yeah, I think it was Massive was the studio.
Yeah, and they have the same trees.
Oh, God.
The internet, when there's truth on the line, the internet goes crazy.
Yes.
It goes absolutely crazy.
But, like, don't you think that this is good for Nintendo in the sense that people are interested in what they're doing? Like, there is a fervor...
The fact,
at least in our kind of like bubble, as it were.
I think that leak could not have happened better for Nintendo. It was. Here it is. Headlines. Everyone's like following it, and then it was sort of debunked in like 2-3 days. 2 days. It was just the right amount of time. It was enough time for people to not just start writing long essays about how crap Nintendo were doing and writing off the NX.
Yeah.
Those hadn't quite started
I mean,
yet.
some of them did because people are reactionary.
Because they're reactionary and they've just waited for a leak and then to press send on their piece.
They've pre-written the piece.
Precisely. So I think from Nintendo's position, it just adds fuel to the hype train, and that's exactly what they want right now in the run-up to E3. And... it's just making E3 more and more.
Oh, God, I can't.
Exciting. And regardless of whether the NX does come out this year or next year, we're still going to know a lot about it at E3. No, so it's going to be. It's going to be good.
It's going to be good. Well, I think that's a jolly darn long discussion we've had.
Join us next show for the next NX Leak where we will also talk about
this is now the NX Leak podcast. Oh boy. So yeah, that's our show for this week. Thanks all for listening. We have had fun doing this in person again. It's been good. And yeah, you can find the show in many places. You can find us in many places. Let's start with the Twitters. Bally, where can you be found?
Please follow me on the Twitter. I am at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN 91. That is also my name on the Miiverse. I've been posting an absolute shed ton of stuff from Pokemon
While I've been
Red
doing my essays and stuff, I was taking a break and I was like, I'll check Bally's Miiverse, see how he's doing.
Just while I'm on holiday.
Yeah.
So that's been good. So yeah, follow me on there, on both those places. That'd be great. NBZ, where are you at?
I am at Lordnbz on Twitter. It's the same for my Miiverse. While my Stardew Valley addiction continues, I doubt any Miiverse post will happen. But we'll get there. You can follow the podcast on Twitter as well. It's at TNL Podcast. You want to keep an eye out on that because I'm going to be putting up this Mario Maker video of Bally losing his damn mind, and you will not want to miss that. So do follow the podcast Twitter, and we'll tweet out a link to that when it goes up. Where can people email us, Bally? We need more emails.
We do need more emails. The email address is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That's thisnintendolife@gmail.com.
Fill up the bag. Fill it up good. You can find us on iTunes. We are on Stitcher. The YouTube version goes up a little later, but it does happen most of the time when Bally reminds me.
Podcast on iTunes is usually a Monday, and the YouTube is usually the Wednesday.
Usually in quotes,
so
because
make
I
sure
forget,
to check out those two places. And yeah, if you do want it earlier, iTunes podcast.
Any podcast app around the world. I use Pocket Casts. Pocket Casts? No. Pocket Casts.
I thought you used to Instacast.
I used to when I had an iPhone. I don't anymore.
I'm still on Instacast.
Instacast is a great app. Pocket Cast is great. Just get an app. The apps are good, unless they are not. Anyway.
And leave us a review if you enjoyed the show.
Sure, yeah, we haven't mentioned reviews in a while. Do go give us a review. Reviews are great. So yeah, that'll do us. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Some more video games, some more Nintendo.
And some more leaks.
Yeah, and Miitomo next time, because that'll be out by the time we next record. So yeah, good times ahead, and we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye, everyone. The musical interludes used on today's show were Noctilum Field from Xenoblade Chronicles X, copyright Nintendo 2015, and the Athletic theme from Super Mario Land 2 The Six Golden Coins, copyright Nintendo 1992. It's like your whole job is to fucking
I used to get Spin Doctor and Witch Doctor confused. And then
it's like putting a spell.
My friends would ask me, what does your dad do? It's like, oh, he's a witch doctor for stage stretch.
My dad's a witch doctor.